Ooh, Kevin Espiritu here from Epic Gardening with my boy Jacques back in December of 2024 to answer a simple question.
How do you grow the biggest, best garlic possible?
So it is probably one of the most popular crops you can grow, but there's a few problems. Number one, you use a lot of it. So you want to have a lot from your harvest. And then number two, it can take 5 to 6 months to grow, which means you grow a lot.
Yeah, I'm growing over 400 this year alone just to satisfy my needs.
Yeah, and he runs out every single year. I've got a couple hundred going in this garden this very year. So we're gonna test 7 different ways of growing garlic, but all of them will be in soil that's been prepared the same way.
And really you wanna start with soil prep because that's gonna get you most of the way to growing great garlic. You want loose soil, so I broke it up with a broad fork. You want plenty of fertility, usually through some sort of organic fertilizer. And of course we have compost throughout all of these beds for the entire experiment.
So here's what we're gonna do. There's the standard recommendation for planting garlic, which would be 3 inches deep, you'll put a clove. You'll space those cloves 6 inches apart in rows, and each row will be spaced 10 inches apart. So that method is what we're going to call our control method. And by the way, we're using the exact same variety of garlic, music garlic, and we've pre-selected our cloves to be the exact same size because clove size does impact the final bulb. So now that we have our base conditions set, let's show you the different methods we're going to use.
First up is the control, which follows our surefire standard recommendation of planting at 3-inch depths with 6-inch spacing between each clove. And our next experiment changes the depth to a very shallow 1 inch only while keeping the spacing at the same 6 inches between cloves. And since we are testing shallow planting, it only made sense to also test extra deep. So we made sure to set up a row where each clove is buried at 6 inches deep, while again keeping the standard spacing of 6 inches between cloves. And now we're going to keep a constant depth of 3 inches and only vary the spacing between each clove. The first one was set up at 3-inch spacing for a very tight planting of garlic, where they're basically right next to each other. And since the control captured 6-inch spacing already, we didn't have to repeat that one, but we did also plant one row at 9 inches apart for extra wide planting, giving these garlic plenty of room to grow. Now with basic space and depth covered, we also wanted to test the sanitize and fertilizing soak with standard depth and spacing. This garlic spent 10 minutes in a 3% hydrogen peroxide bath before soaking for half an hour in an organic liquid fertilizer. This should have less disease from the start, and it should also start off with a little bit of extra fertility. And one common garlic tip that we've all heard before is to only plant the biggest clove, since smaller cloves lead to smaller heads of garlic. So we selected the smallest possible cloves and planted them at the same controlled depth and spacing. And finally, we've all wanted the answer to this question that everyone has been wondering forever, which is what happens when you bury an entire head of garlic? So we grabbed an untouched head and buried it off to the side at 3-inch depth. And once all the garlic was planted, we made sure to set up a consistent irrigation system across each experiment, and now we just have to wait for our first results.
We're back in the great garlic patch in the Epic backyard. Jacques, quite a few differences in all these different ways of growing garlic. So maybe starting off with our depth ones over here. So the 3-inch, the 1-inch depth, and the 6-inch depth. What are you noticing? The control to me is looking a little weak sauce.
Yeah, it looks a little bit weak. I will say the shallow one definitely looks the most vigorous, but that's no surprise. It's early in the season. It's only planted an inch deep.
Yeah.
And there's definitely something interesting going on here because the deep garlic, it's actually emerged. The leaves are coming literally up out of the soil, whereas this one actually has a stem. So it's like the leaves just erupted as soon as they reached the light.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if that means we're gonna get a better or worse bulb. We'll have
It's gonna be a long neck, that's for sure.
It's gonna be a long neck. But then also notice that roughly the height is slightly edged out by the 1-inch, which again is no surprise. It didn't have as much to come up. I think the control, I would just chalk this up to maybe a little weird rain.
What the cloves were.
That's what the cloves wanted to do. Sometimes you see this, I saw this in the front yard. So we're hoping that that catches up. Now going to our 2 spacing ones. This row is spaced 3 inches apart. This one 9 inches apart as opposed to the control 6. I don't know about you, but so far 3-inch spacing doesn't seem to affect this.
It looks fine, but it's no surprise. Right now it's like a garlic bulb like that big, right?
Yeah.
So there's no competition yet.
Yeah.
And so I guess that kind of checks out. But this is also really fascinating to me too, because
These were our
the
tiny
cloves. Yeah, we were like, let's just try. They definitely look tiny. Like the stem is tiny, the leaves are tiny. It looks a little bit more wispy. So that's to be expected. We'll see if it translates to a smaller bulb.
I've never directly noted that when I
No.
planted out tiny cloves, because you always hear bigger clove, bigger bulb, and right now it seems like that's going to be my prediction.
Yeah.
Now the other interesting one is this is our soaked control.
Yeah.
So it has the exact same spacing and depth as the original. It's just that we soaked it for quite a while in some fertilizer as well as some sterilizing stuff. It's doing a lot better.
I think so.
Doing a lot.
Too early to say, but it definitely looks better.
It looks better. I don't know if it's because of the soak. Maybe we'll find out at the end. The weirdest one though is right up here. It is the whole bulb planting.
It looks vigorous.
It looks good. It looks really good
Yeah.
actually. And here's my hypothesis here.
Okay.
So we didn't disrupt its natural state really at all. You just threw a bulb in the ground.
Oh, yep.
So you're not going to see perhaps some damaged cloves struggling to thrive, and then maybe they'll come up like this control. That being said, are we even going to see bulb formation, or are they simply way too close together?
I'm hoping it's gonna be like 4 huge bulbs fused into like an elephant-sized garlic.
Crazy, like a mace.
Because I have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. Let us know in the comments what you think is going to happen there. But we have quite a while to wait before we check in with you again. Right now, we're going to keep watering. We'll do a little bit of fertilizer throughout the growing process, and we'll probably check in with you when these are a lot bigger. All right, Jock, we're back on a gloomy June day to see if our garlic experiment has yielded anything promising.
Anything at all?
We'll see. So let's go ahead and start. I'm going to dig up the control, 3-inch spacing, 6 inches deep.
All right.
Let's see what we got. Oh, we did get a little bit of that. Oh.
Okay. There's a head.
It's not fully formed over here, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
All right, I got 2 heads here.
Wow, it's a skinny neck.
Check these out. It's not
Those are
bad.
decent,
It's a
yeah.
modest garlic.
Yeah,
it's not
totally.
too bad. Okay, this is gonna be interesting, Jacques. I'm going surface zone. This is the 1-inch deep.
Oh, actually, I'm very curious about
So
that
we'll
one.
see a little bit bigger. Obviously, that's just
intriguing.
one.
Soak?
What do you got? The soak
The
one?
soak control, one of them is pretty
pretty
good
decent
size.
size.
The other one's kind of small.
Yeah, that's decent
So,
size.
so far,
I've got the deep ones here, which might be a little hard to
they're
get
gonna be
out.
hard to pull.
It might be a little hard. Yep, that's what I thought. Might need to go
Would you lose it?
on this one. Yeah.
Okay, so one that I was super curious about is the tiny clove control. So let's see what these look like. This neck looked promising, but pretty small bulb here. The next one is even smaller. Come on. Oh, dang. All right, we're gonna need a trowel.
What you got on the tiny cloves? How'd those ones do?
The tiny cloves, actually interesting.
Oh, that's a tiny little.
One is quite tiny.
Interesting. Okay.
But one of them was like, yeah, definitely smaller than the rest, but not bigger, that's for sure.
I would say smaller, but not bigger. I
Smaller,
would
but not
say,
bigger.
honestly, I would say that's, to the degree this experiment
Yeah.
is valid, of course, proves that smaller cloves will produce smaller bulbs on average. It makes sense. There's physically less
Less
energy,
energy to
less
begin with.
matter to begin with.
The ones that were further spaced apart, not much of a difference. I'm not totally surprised, but we'll see in a second here.
I'm trying to get down.
Very curious to see this guy.
Deep one is tough to get to.
It's deep.
It's pretty deep. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, that's not that impressive,
No. So
especially for that much work you said to do to get that out.
I'm gonna pull these. These are the ones that were planted basically right next to each other. I
Yeah.
expect that these will be smaller.
Super tight spacing.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Interesting.
Well, that's the edge one now. In between, see, honestly, it looks fine.
Wow, this is very interesting. The deep ones,
Dude,
yeah,
that might be the biggest one.
that's pretty interesting. So first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and say don't bury them this deep just for the annoyance.
For the set.
Like this is just annoying to dig up.
Yeah, you're wrecking your soil here.
Yeah.
All right.
No more no dig.
Yeah.
And there's no size difference. So what am I doing this for
Yeah.
as a gardener? Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and say, of course, we can do some final measurements perhaps,
Yeah.
but deep, I'm gonna say there's simply no point. This is standard depth, but tight.
Yes.
And I don't see any reason why you wouldn't tighten it up, especially if you're a small time gardener. Because look at this, right? That's pretty solid. And then look at like this guy here, this
Yeah.
is 1 inch deep. And then this is our control. These are as good, if not better
Yeah.
than the rest, right?
I think the only consideration would be like, in the most optimal conditions, this is as big as they could really get, because that's how close they were planted.
Right.
So if you did go a little further, you could technically get a
You could
bigger.
probably squeeze a little more out. I think what happened with the deep is that it simply had to expend so much energy getting up that it didn't have enough foliage up top to produce
Like,
a
look at
bulb
the
at
difference
time.
in where the greens are.
Look at that.
Like, the green doesn't start till up here.
Yeah.
And down here is where it really started on this.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So, okay, so should we do the big reveal?
Yeah,
The giant clove?
I'm very curious to see what we learn about.
I don't know what I'm gonna see.
From what
don't
I
know.
could see right now,
Yeah.
it's basically they all look like the same size,
Yeah.
like the stalks.
I'm gonna guess that we have no true clove separation,
Okay.
but we have a lot of singular bulbs.
Like right next to each
big
other?
bulbs. That's my guess.
I feel like I want to excavate this.
You do? Okay, let's do it. Okay, I'm seeing something.
Oh, wow. This is actually interesting. This might be promising.
This is, okay, should we do a poll now, or what do you think? I'm seeing a clustering.
Yeah,
and I'm
I see a cluster.
feeling basically my prediction.
Okay.
So what do you think? Big
Pull it, pull it.
Whoa!
That's actually a really good yield.
Yo, okay.
Dude, that one's huge.
What's the difference between this and these? Like, hold this up. That's pretty interesting.
That's great. That's
But
like
look
in a tiny space.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like multi-sowing onions or something where, yeah, you're gonna get less yield out of the individual, but on a per basis, I mean, I guess here's the real way to compare this, right? It would be if you had planted these cloves individually and grown them out separately,
I would have taken way more space.
but it would have taken more space. And so to me, to get a cluster out of a head like this, was probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cloves at least, right? I'm pretty pleased about this.
That's not bad at all.
Because look, you got good separation on this one. That's a solid
You
head.
could easily peel these out as separate cloves.
This is a solid head, feel that one.
Yeah, 100%.
This is a smaller but still separated out head.
I definitely still eat that.
And then these 3 right here, I would say are less developed, but it would still be delicious garlic.
That's
that you
really
could eat.
interesting.
That's pretty fascinating. I did not expect
It
that.
actually makes me want to try planting some like that next year.
So what did you find on the soak? I mean, the soak to me does look arguably the best as far as total results.
Yeah, I'd say like
They're the
maybe
biggest,
the
for sure.
biggest overall. Like the 2 biggest I'd say are probably in this package here.
Yep.
They all got garlic rust in the end, so they all suffered the same disease. So
Sure.
the soak didn't cure that, at least not that disease. So honestly, tiny cloves, not worth it.
Not worth it unless you're trying to squeeze out as much
Yeah,
harvest as you can.
100%.
So here's my final take.
Yeah.
My final take would be for fun, I don't see a problem with just planting a whole bulb.
I think we need to expand that experiment a little bit.
Maybe even in just a container.
Yeah.
You would just plop it right in. I would say if it's up to me, I may do a light soak and I would probably cheat my spacing a little tighter, especially maybe if I was growing in like a barrel or something, Jacques, right?
Totally.
You do kind of like a triangle offset spacing. You could cram a lot in and you'd get some version of this type of result out of there. Spacing deep, almost not worth it in any way. I can't think of much of an advantage of putting it just an inch deep either. So why? Because
It's stressful. Like you're gonna have to get your watering really perfect in that case.
and maybe if it's too cold, you're gonna deal with that
And
too.
6 inches apart, like
It's fine.
It's fine. Like
You could
if
cheat
have
it to
that space.
4, maybe even 3 inches.
Yeah.
Pretty fascinating experiment from our perspective. Curious what you think in the comments. As always, with our gardening experiments, is it a scientifically valid thing you could publish in nature.com? Absolutely not. It's backyard science, but we hope you learned something. More experiments right over here. If you want to mess around with garlic, you can pre-order bulbs pretty soon here on botanicalinterest.com. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.